Hi-Fi Rush sounds chaotic when described. This Tango Gameworks Xbox exclusive that was shadow dropped just last week is a genre splice of rhythm game, platformer, and hack-and-slash actioner, which are all very disparate and separate genres that have regardless been spliced together here. In fact, in terms of all the genres it mixes, Hi-Fi Rush is a lot, mostly because it's a Frankenstein-like creation that combines Devil May Cry action, music-focused rhythm games, and Crash Bandicoot-style platforming together. Like, that's a lot of different genres that the game juggles like a coked-up circus clown. But thankfully, there's only one clown here, and that clown is me. See, Hi-Fi Rush mixes all of these distinct genres together perfectly. The rhythm elements are infectious, the combat is fun and fluid, and the platforming helps pace out the game nicely. Hi-Fi Rush is overall a wonderful game. Hi-Fi Rush is great due to how its many disparate genres work cohesively together, mostly because it uses its rhythm game elements as a core centerpiece in a way that affects both the combat and the platforming. See, each level features a song or two, some licensed and some created in studio, and every aspect of the game is in rhythm to the beat of those songs. This includes the environment, which has elements that constantly move to the beat, but most importantly, this includes our main character Chai, whose platforming and combat maneuvers also match the beat. In fact, no matter when you hit the jump button or try out light or heavy attack combos or even dodge, these actions all happen on the beat. And if you actually hit these buttons in rhythm, then your combos are rewarded with more points, because obviously your combat performance is graded like in Devil May Cry, which is pretty awesome. Though not necessarily because I was good at having my metal guitar combos match the beat. I don't have any sort of rhythm when it comes to Hi-Fi Rush, because I'm just a well-earned and proud C-average student, but rather it's awesome how much Hi-Fi Rush's combat and platforming is synchronized to its rhythm game foundation. It's really cool. This is notable when referencing other action games that have tried and at least somewhat failed to be rhythm-based titles. In fact, last year's Metal Hellsinger was one such game. In that first-person shooter title, you had to try and shoot demons to the tune of the beat of a custom heavy metal soundtrack, which in concept is a neat idea. I might be biased, but games gotta have more metal in them after all. But in practice, Metal Hellsinger did not feel all that cohesive. When shooting, your shots don't automatically match the beat, and when being attacked by demons, the player has greater concerns than just trying to match the rhythm. They are literally fighting for their lives, like a customer perusing Walmart on Black Friday, all to the point that trying to match the shots to the beat becomes a secondary concern. It is not a synchronous experience, yet Hi-Fi Rush succeeds where Metal Hellsinger failed, because every aspect of Hi-Fi Rush's gameplay is in tune with the beat and the rhythm surrounding it. It all feels cohesive. It's a perfect blend. Hi-Fi Rush features rhythmic elements that go beyond just the standard beat as well. In fact, there are numerous gameplay and environmental elements that work with specific timing and recognizing rhythms. To just list a few, combos and special attacks often have a button press at the very end that the player can use to maximize damage and earn points. The player can call in assists from squad members who have specialized attacks, like Peppermint's long-range stun pistols or Macaron's heavy attack, in order to solve specific puzzles or surmount environmental obstacles that all have their own rhythmic patterns. Blocking requires precise timing. There are moments where enemies launch into a barrage of multiple attacks that require the player to hit the block and or dodge button at the right moments. Those aforementioned moments open up the enemy to a well-timed counterattack. There are platforming obstacles that require the player to memorize timings, and then there are environmental hazards and even boss battles that have attacks that match the rhythm of some of the songs in the game. Hell, one of these instances occurs within the first boss battle, where the boss's attacks are in sync with a Nine Inch Nails song, which was the moment that I realized that this game was going to be a good fucking time. Because, you know, unleashing combos to the tune of Trent Reznor serenading croons is awesome, especially when it's from the track 1 Million, a song that is from the fantastic yet underrated NIN album The Slip. Though admittedly, it would have been funny if the game had a section where it was in rhythm to Closer, because if you know, you know. But regardless, the gameplay highlights what Hi-Fi Rush is all about, that it is a rhythm game down to its very foundational elements. The pacing further complements the gameplay's rhythm. After all, pacing is its own rendition of a narrative rhythm, and Hi-Fi Rush's pacing is perfectly in tune. The combat is interspersed with a lot of platforming. Most levels so far introduce new gameplay elements, many of which I mentioned in the previous paragraph, and Chai can purchase and unlock new combos, special attacks, and passive upgrades throughout the game by acquiring gears, something that in turn benefits the platforming due to how those aforementioned gears have in-game benefits when acquiring them. There's actually a tangible reason to collect these collectibles, and as a result, the expert pacing allows this game to be fun and in a way that keeps the player engaged. Unlike Henry VIII, Hi-Fi Rush is a a good time. The game's story is about finding one's rhythm as well. See, the title is about our young protagonist Chai, who is a 25-year-old youngin' with a disabled arm who volunteers for an experimental procedure dubbed Project Armstrong at the Vandelay Corporation in order to have his arm replaced with a cybernetic one, which is always cool because robo-arms are awesome. However, things go awry when Chai's iPod gets stuck inside his own circuitry, hence why Chai now sees the world in a rhythmic way, and how Chai can now create and swing a literal metal guitar. And as a result of this complication, the Vandelay Corporation labels Chai as a defect, and they want to dispatch him, by which they mean kill him. And from there, Chai rebels against a discordant corporate system that has thrown his and the rest of the world into disharmony. Because under the stewardship of the Vandelay Corpos, Chai's reality is a world out of rhythm, which ultimately makes for a good antagonistic force and conflict for a rhythm game. Because obviously. Additionally, the character development is also about finding rhythm. All the main characters in Chai's crew have their own character strengths and flaws. Peppermint is super intelligent but can have a personal attitude. Macaron is tough and compassionate but is averse to conflict. And our lead character Chai has charm but is incredibly pig-headed, headstrong, and about as subtle as a wedding service being interrupted by a loud, well-timed fart. He's got problems, but these character flaws all coalesce and create an internal team conflict that allows all of these aforementioned characters to become better versions of themselves. They go on arcs that give them an opportunity to grow and become harmonious, which is very befitting for a rhythm game. Overall, Hi-Fi Rush is a rhythm game at heart. Its combat, platforming, pacing, and story elements are all about finding rhythm and trying to be in tune, trying to be in sync. And while there might be a few problems, like I kind of wish there were more licensed tracks, and there's so many combos that it's often hard to memorize all of them, Hi-Fi Rush is an incredibly fun and enjoyable experience that can even make a rhythmless boogeyman vibe with the groove. Because ultimately, Hi-Fi Rush is just very good and infectious like that. It is rhythmic genius. And with that, that was the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave a like rating, share, subscribe, ring the bell, and leave a comment telling me what you think of Hi-Fi Rush. Also, please consider checking out my Patreon page. $1 a month gets you onto this credit sequence, and $5 a month allows you to make quick review requests. The link to my Patreon is in the description. And speaking of Patreon, I just want to thank my patrons, particularly my high tier ones in Samantha Devlin, Mom, and Morgan. Thank you so much for supporting what I do. Love y'all.